Time now for Focus, and today we meet some of the people affected by India's recent ban on surrogate services for foreign couples. Since there aren't many countries that allow commercial surrogacy, thousands of surrogate babies were being born in India every year. But the government believes that poor, illiterate women are being exploited. The fear now is that the whole business will go underground. Surabhi Tandon reports.
In a few weeks, Lalita will give birth to a child for a foreign couple. But surrogate mothers like her will soon be out of business.
I feel that what has happened is not fair, and it affects people like us the most. Foreigners can pay more, we earn better through them. This decision was just wrong.
Lalita is talking about the Indian government's recent decision to ban surrogacy for foreign couples. India is one of the few countries that allows commercial surrogacy. As a result, the industry has grown to an approximate worth of $2.3 billion, producing almost 5,000 babies per year. But according to Dr. Patel, who runs one of India's biggest fertility clinics in Anand in Western India, all that is set to change.
I mean, it's really sad. Not only the couples are getting not coming, but every day I'm refusing on an average 5 surrogates who keep returning that we want to become a surrogate, and we said, now we don't have patience and we cannot do.
Cheap medical costs, skilled doctors, and a steady supply of surrogates made India one of the most popular destinations for surrogacy very quickly. But a sudden boom also led to the growth of a massively unregulated industry. However, the decision to ban instead of tightening regulation has come under severe criticism.
Way to go ahead for the missing gaps is not a ban, because that will create even a worse market, a black market, underground surrogacy where everybody could suffer. What are the missing points? How we can keep a check on it, counter check on it, documentation, notification, that would be the right way.
But while Dr. Patel might run a tight ship at Akanksha Infertility Clinic, the situation is not always transparent. Almost 3 years ago, we visited a facility in the city of Hyderabad that had very different living conditions for their surrogate mothers. Packed like sardines in temperatures well above 40 degrees, a lot of the women there were clueless about what they had signed up for. The O'Connors in Dublin, who we spoke to via Skype, have already had a daughter through surrogacy in India and wanted to come back for another. They feel that the ban to exclude foreigners is discriminatory.
This was our last chance of having a family, as with the thousands of other couples that travel to India. And it's changed our life, of course. So deeply, deeply saddened and very annoyed that this ban has come into place.
Back in Anand, we met Manisha, an ex-surrogate single mother who was able to turn her life around with the money she earned through the procedure.
With the money I earned through surrogacy, I was able to buy myself a house, put my daughters through school. See, we don't have money, and the parents we work with are unable to have children. Through this, we are able to benefit from each other.
The ban has already triggered a fierce debate about the ethics of surrogacy in India, and the future for all stakeholders remains uncertain.
For more on this, I'm now joined in the studio by Claire de la Hougue, a lawyer specialising in surrogacy. Hello, thank you very much indeed for your time. Now, for our report, though, we spoke to women who apparently had quite a positive experience of surrogacy. But for every woman who gets good medical treatment, who gets what she considers to be enough money in return for what she's done, how many are or were actually being exploited?
Well, the numbers are not known, obviously. Some were really ill-treated, really exploited. Even Indian NGOs denounced the fact that very young girls, even 13, 14 years old, were being taken and kept to become surrogate mothers. So it was human trafficking, very clearly human trafficking. But even if the numbers are not known, even in the cases where women are properly treated, the problem is they're used as a means to satisfy the desire of other people, of couples. The desire to have a child, of course, is legitimate and natural. But can you use somebody who is seen just as a machine to have a baby, and then can you transfer the baby? The baby is being transferred for money, which is the definition of the sale of a child in international law.
Well, then why would clinics be told only to refuse foreign couples and not local ones as well?
Well, maybe as a first step, possibly, and also because there was a huge market and exploitation maybe is seen as a kind of new colonialism. People from rich countries coming to exploit women for poor women from.
They don't see it that way, though, do they? Because they consider they're paying for a service and that these women are doing it voluntarily. Because in return, as we saw in the report, they can pay for their children's education, they can pay for a home.
Would you say it's really voluntary when you do it because you need to feed your children or to send them to school? It's not voluntary. It's because you're pressured by economic circumstances. So, of course, those women earned money, but can they earn money with abandoning their dignity and the dignity of the child, which is transferred to the couple? That's a real problem. There is a real ethical problem there. And prohibiting it for foreign people is already a big limit because they were a huge part of the market.
But when there's a financial need like that, shouldn't the authorities then, and perhaps they're doing this already, talk to these women about alternatives?
That's obviously necessary, but it's necessary to fight poverty. But you cannot say that if somebody is poor, any means is possible. Prostitution, for example, would not be acceptable. It's a kind of prostitution. They rent their body. So,
is a woman not free to do what she wants with her body?
Well, you can't renounce your own dignity. Sometimes you have to do it. You're obliged. You're pressured into doing it. But it's not a real choice. In that case, it's not a choice.
Now, it has grown into a huge industry in India. We saw, I understand it's worth $2.3 billion. Isn't that, how can the authorities, what do you think led to the authorities introducing this ban when it is so lucrative?
Well, they realized there was a real problem of exploitation of women, and Indian civil society decided to fight this practice because they saw it was completely against women's dignity and children's dignity. So there was a huge pressure from Indian civil society.
And what about the concerns that are expressed in our report about the whole business going underground? Is that not a real concern for the safety of women?
There might be, but it was already the case because there were already many problems of exploitation and bad treatments and bad medical conditions in some places. But anyway, the fact that it's now prohibited is in itself very dissuasive, disincentive, let's say. For many people will say, okay, we renounce it, we won't try because it's not legal. And then if it does exist, it's the same as drug trafficking or murder or whatever. If it's prohibited, many people will avoid it. And then in cases it happens, it will have to be sanctioned, criminally sanctioned.
And is it true that many women were being forced or perhaps encouraged to have caesareans because that would suit parents who were flying in for just a few days?
Yes. In most cases, they had a C-section just to fit the plane tickets of the commissioning parents, yes.
And women who carried surrogate babies weren't necessarily getting care after giving birth? Was it very much a case of, now that you've given birth, then that's it, we're not here for you anymore?
That's it. In some places, that's how it happened, and some surrogate mothers died because of that. I don't have numbers, of course, about it. In some cases, they were properly taken care of, but in others, a number of surrogate mothers died.
And just a quick word on, now that India's introduced this ban on foreign couples, it's not entirely clear what it means for local couples. What about other countries? How many exactly allow commercial surrogacy and where?
Not many. And for example, Thailand last year did the same thing as India, banned it for foreign couples. Few countries accept it. Some American states, but not all. Some accept it commercially and some not commercially, and some completely ban it. In the UK and in Greece, it's legal if it's not commercial. In some Eastern Europe country, it's legal even if it's commercial, but it's not very clear legally, and there is also pressure to ban it now. It's also legal in Israel. I don't know exactly the conditions, but a few countries accept it on a commercial basis. In some places, it happens it's just tolerated without a clear legal frame.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for your time on today's focus, Claire de la Hougue,